Hi, I'm Kristen.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Hunter. Today we're going to talk to y'all a little bit about contrasting cultural values for different cultures in different countries across the world.
Values form our core of the culture. Values are social principles, goals, or standards accepted by the society of that culture. People in various cultures have different attitudes about ethical standards, family, leisure, and work. Because the U.S. is becoming so culturally diverse and more global, managers and business people need to be aware and respectful of the values of all workers here. If we understand the different values, we can understand what motivates people of different backgrounds, as well as deal effectively with any problems or misunderstandings that happen along the way. It's important to embrace these cultural differences that we experience and use these differences to grow in understanding. Understanding and embracing these differences will lead to more effective communication and business relationships internationally. When we respect the practices of different cultures, we're showing respect to the essence of who other people are. Some values we have in the United States are not shared by people in other cultures. Today we're going to look at how values in the U.S. compare with those of other cultures. We're going to look at these differences regarding equality, formality, individualism, and the attitude towards time and business relationships. And before we get into that, we're going to look at some overall cultural values that we have here in America compared to different countries. Here in the U.S., we value things such as action, success, directness, independence, and risk-taking. In Latin America and the Middle East, it's a little different. Their main focus is on family harmony and relationships and authority and status. Those are the things that they are driven towards. And in Japan and China, it's kind of a little similar to Latin America and the Middle East. They're looking for that group harmony, relationships, loyalty, honesty, age, and family. Those are the things that they respect. On a corporate level, in the U.S., we're all about competition, innovation, quality, and informality. In Japan and China, they're more about long-term relationships, building those relationships, and the reputation of a company is very sacred to them. The next thing we're going to kind of look at is motivation. What motivates people? What motivates people of different backgrounds? In the U.S., it's profit. People live to work. That's their main drive is money and working. People live for that. In Latin America and the Middle East, on the other hand, people work to live. These people are working to survive, and it's for a different purpose than we have here. In China and Japan, their motivation is long-term opportunities and the company's market share. So they're looking in the future, whereas today, I think in the U.S., we're very about right now and what's next right now. So another thing that we're going to look at is kind of achievement. In the U.S., your self-esteem is going to be riding on achievement. Americans admire people who work hard and they're motivated to achieve new things.
Yes, that's definitely one of the main things that people really pride themselves on as Americans. Achievement, take a lot of pride in their accolades. Whereas, you find it's a little bit different in other countries where they take a lot more time for, leisure and family time. I mean, here in America, it's an act of Congress just to take off for merely a day of work. Over there, you have countries where, I believe it's France, you can get a mandatory 5 weeks paid vacation time off of work per year. I can't even imagine something like that being a law here in America. U.S. people, we really do value our work ethic, as was just mentioned. Reward systems are often based on employees' achievement, their willingness to work beyond a 40-hour week. As we all know, the 40-hour work week is the standard here in America for full-time workers. Countries like India and China, they average over 46 hours per week, which I thought was real interesting because I didn't realize that they worked, that much more than even we do. And I also found that Japan, their average work day is 18 hours. So if you thought 8 hours was bad, imagine double that and some. So most of Europe, which I believe, wasn't it you that said you took a trip to Europe and you found it really interesting about their attitudes towards work and stuff like that. Why don't you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Okay, yeah, I studied in Europe, in Italy for a month, and it was just a culture of leisure. And it's not that they don't value work, I find. They work very hard, for their money. They value work ethic just as much as the next person, but they put a lot of emphasis on that leisure time, on that family time. It's a well rounded, kind of culture. I find that like they work hard, but they play a lot too, and they take their time out to have a well balanced life that's not just focused on work, work, work. So I think that that's great. I think it's great.
Yeah, that is real interesting to me, especially because you're just kind of raised up in America as just basically you work until you die, and then it doesn't afford you a lot of time to just enjoy enjoy your life. What's the point of all that work if you can't have a little fun? Anyways, doing business. Now, doing business across the globe has a lot of different faces, a lot of different ways of doing things. You got one thing to really take into account is business relationships. Now, here in America, and also in a lot of northern Europe, we have kind of a friendly and informal business relationships normally. That means, continuing a personal relationship is not important. One of the common phrases that you'll hear in regards to business in America, business is business, or, it's strictly business. Meaning, it just comes down to the bottom line, making your company more money, maximizing the profits. Whereas places like Latin America and a lot of Asian countries, they believe that your personal relationships are very important, almost vital to business. Before they'll even go into business with someone, they believe that you have to build a relationship. And I thought that was real interesting coming across that information because it's just such a contrast to how we view it here in America. I mean, now what do y'all think? Do y'all think that business is just business, or do you think that you should form that personal friendship relationship before you own a business with someone?
I agree that business is strictly business. Like, you're there to make the sale. There's really no point in meeting their family or something like that. Like, if you're only interested in maximizing your profits, why would you, waste your time getting to know the family?
Yeah, I agree in some sense, but I do feel like part of those other cultures is, building that long-term relationship, and sometimes building that long-term relationship can mean more profits. If you build that relationship with them for a long time, they might refer their friends, they might refer, other people to get involved in the business. So I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's good, it's bad, but I do think that, like there is opportunity if you build that trust for growth.
Okay, yeah, that's both opposing really good points that you brought on both sides of the coin. Now, personally, I'd just say I guess it depends on if you're trying to do cross-cultural business, you're gonna have to take all that into account and know the person that you're dealing with. If their customs are to build that relationship, then maybe you want to take a little more time and not just treat it as strictly business. But then if it's just, an American thing or, then more strictly business and...
yeah, it's important to respect what they respect in order to do business.
Right. No right or wrong in either way. It's just,
right.
Differences,
just
different ways.
Yeah.
Exactly. Business style in America, it's really a hard sell. We use a lot of slogans, exaggerations,
Jokes.
And jokes. That's a big thing. We use a lot of jokes. Pretty much, you can't watch a commercial that's advertising a product that doesn't have a joke in it. That's just kind of the American way. And in other countries, that's deemed very offensive. And actually, some countries it's actually illegal in your advertisements to use humor and to have jokes and things like that. Which I thought that was kind of crazy. It's completely different from the norm around America, really. China and Asia, they're very reserved. They like lots of opportunity to ask questions. That's kind of their business style. And that kind of brings us into, nature of decisions as well. Here in America, decisions are like contracts, and people are under obligation to stick to them. basically, you sign your name on that dotted line, and that contract is final. And regardless of what happens in the external environment or in your personal life, you have to, stick to that contract. Or you could be sued, you could go to jail. I thought what was cool is, well, not necessarily cool, but it's a different way of doing things. In Latin America and China, their contracts are a lot more subject to open to interpretation and change. They're a lot more flexible. What do you both say about contracts? Is a contract that's it and it's set in stone, or should they have flexibility and be able to kind of change as they see fit?
Well, I mean, of course, here in America, like you already said, contracts are always set in stone. I mean, for the most part. But I do think it could come in handy sometimes. Like, what if your situation like drastically changes? Like something like what if you're just not able to pay your rent? You have to get out of this contract. But
yeah, I think we're so conditioned to think that we think contracts are contracts. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's black and white. So I think it's interesting that they do kind of view them as more open interpretation. Like, things do come up in life. I mean, that's life. Things always are going to happen. So I think it's like admirable that they respect change and can adapt to it. But I think here it's just not like that. It's black or it's white. Like, you signed it. That's what you made the commitment to do. So you have to follow through with it. So I think it's interesting that other countries are more subject to, I guess, flexibility.
Right. Yeah, flexibility. That could be a good thing. But I think if there's too much flexibility, then that could also be a bad thing.
Like, where's the line? Where do you draw the line?
Exactly. Then that's
what is too much flexibility?
Exactly. It's kind of a slippery slope. You don't want to have too much flexibility to where people can kind of manipulate situations and negotiations.
You need some structure in a business world. You need contracts to make sure things get done. So
right, definitely.
To hold people accountable.
Exactly.
For what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. Very valid points all across the board.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that brings us to the personal aspect of it. So not only do people have a lot of differing values in their business world, but also in the personal realm. One of them being time management or punctuality. Here in the U.S., it's almost required that you're always on time. Like, that is a norm. You're never late. Actually, some people say if you're not early, you're late. So, but in other countries such as Central America, it's actually not that important. It's
I've heard a meeting maybe at 8:00 and they'll stroll in there at 8:15, 8:30. That's interesting.
But and another value that they could share personally would be how they value food or meals. Here in the U.S., that there's fast food on every corner, and if there's not a fast food joint, there's an all-you-can-eat buffet, because Americans they're concerned with getting more for their money. They want all they can eat. But in other countries such as I believe you were saying in Italy, that's how it is. It's different there.
So fast food is like based on the idea of saving time. Like, you go get fast food because you're in a rush. You need to get somewhere in 5 minutes. You don't have time to sit down and eat, which is like the norm here. Eating is not. It's just you eat, you go. It's not
really valued.
Leisure time. Yeah. And so meal time in other countries, like in Italy, or I mean, I find even in like Central America, it's a family. It's like an affair. It's like you go and you spend time every night for maybe 2 hours, just eating, and it's goes back to the whole leisure thing, how they value that. They value that time. They value their families. They value those relationships, and it's a priority just as much as work is.
That's pretty awesome. They value quality of life.
It kind of makes you think that you need to slow down. Like, we want to work, but it's you want to slow down. And life's too short. You want to enjoy everything besides work, but you want to work hard. So.
Well, I guess that's it
Thank y'all for listening.